targets, and signature programs. The signature program through the Excellence Administration is our hashtag CAP program. We are very proud to have 29 amazingly talented students in our hashtag CAP program under the leadership of Myra Stanley Key and Denise Hicks Mao. We thank you for joining us this Saturday morning and happy writing.
Good Saturday morning. One of the main purposes of our hashtag CAP program is to assist high school students with applying to the colleges and universities of their choice, as well as assisting with applying for various scholarships. The Beta Iota Omega chapter is fortunate to have members who are actively employed at various higher education institutions with firsthand knowledge on the expectations for college entry and scholarship offers. The Beta Iota Omega chapter has members who have professional expertise in grammar and writing skills and can provide one-on-one guidance to ensure that your applications are submitted with perfection. During these challenging times with the pandemic, students' access to the one-on-one experiences with their high school guidance counselors is limited. However, our chapter is always ready and available to assist you in these efforts. Please reach out to your hashtag CAP chairman if you need assistance with your application at any time. We are here to help and achieve your rise to greatness.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Denise Hicks Mile, and I have the pleasure of introducing our two workshop participants who's going to help you with your writing this morning. First, we have Dr. Brenda J. Kennedy. She is an associate professor and the interim director of the Office of Field and Clinical Experiences at Winston-Salem State University. She taught future teachers in education programs for over 20 years, but her first loves are writing and teaching and teaching writing. Prior to working in higher education, she taught English and language arts for 13 years at the middle school and high school level in the suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. She's been doing writing workshops for teachers. Excuse me. She's been doing writing, excuse me, she's been, prior to working in higher education, she taught English and language arts for 13 years at the middle school and high school levels in the suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. She's been doing writing workshops for teachers and students for over 30 years. Then we have Dr. Penny H. Spees, serves as the chair of the Humanities Department and is an assistant professor of English at Bennett College. She also provides leadership for the College Writing Center. She received her BA degree in English from Bennett College, and she holds an MA degree in English with a concentration in 20th century American literature from the Ohio State University. Her master's thesis, entitled The Relationship Between Black Folk English and Characterization in the Prose Writing of Alice Walker, has served as the foundation for a special topics course, The Literary Phenomenon of Alice Walker, in the English program. Aside from her leadership roles in higher education, Ms. Spees cherishes being in the classroom with the students where she has an opportunity to work closely with young people to enhance their skills in both writing and lifelong learning. She is a member of Mount Zion Baptist Church, where she serves in the deacons ministry. She and her husband, Bobby Jr., are the parents of two sons, Bobby Jr., a student at Johnson C. Smith University, and Bryson, a student at North Carolina State University.
Welcome. We are so glad to be presenting this workshop titled Do It the Right Way for You. Mrs. Spees and I love working with students and teaching writing. So our agenda for today is after we do our introductions, we are going to take you through these different parts of our workshop, starting with the goals, the process, the review of the writing process. We're going to ask you about your writing process, and we're going to give you a brief overview of the writing process, and then we're going to have a portion where we demystify prompts, what makes you uniquely you, and applying what you've learned. But first, we want to know who's in the workshop with us. So we're going to ask the students to tell us their name, school, classification, hometown, and what you hope to gain from this workshop. Mrs. Spees, can you call on students to ask them to give their introductions?
Certainly. Zoe, would you begin our introductions for us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Zoe Shepard. I attend Wheeler High School. What is the classification?
If you
What
are,
year are you in high school?
Okay, I'm a junior in high school. My hometown is Mapleton, Georgia. And I hope to gain from this workshop what colleges are looking for in my writing and how I can cater to that.
Awesome.
excellent. Okay, Winter.
Hi, my name is Winter Jones. I go to Martha Ellen Stillwell School of the Arts, but I'm a full-time dual enrollment student at Atlanta Metropolitan State College. I'm a senior in high school and my hometown is Atlanta, Georgia. I hope to learn how to make my essays stand out when applying to scholarships.
Okay. Thank you, Winter. Forgive me if I mispronounced your name. Is it Stacia Zimmerman? Stacia? Okay, we'll come back to Stacia. Emerson. Okay. Denver Brown.
My name's Denver. I go to TJ High School. I'm a junior, and
I think Denver is speaking to us, but Denver, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
The volume is very low.
Okay, my name is Denver. I go to TJ High School. I'm a junior. I live in Newmarket, Maryland, and I hope to learn how to write a good college essay and kind of see what they're looking for.
Right. Let's see. Kanisha. Okay. All right, we'll go back then to Emerson. Okay. Stacia.
So Stasia's audio isn't working. She's trying
Okay.
to switch devices right now. So I guess I'll fill in for her. And it's Stasia. She's at Southeast High School. She is a senior. She's from Greensboro. And maybe when she gets logged in, she can tell us what she hopes to gain from the workshop.
All right, thanks, Mom. All right. Did I miss anyone?
Yes,
Have a
ma'am.
new one logging in.
Okay, is it Nari?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
My name is Nari Bell. I'm a senior at the Academy at Smith from Greensboro, North Carolina, and I hope to gain a better way of writing college essays and also having the ability of making my essays stand out to colleges.
Okay. Thank you, Nari. Is it Arika Campbell? If I have missed anyone, please come off of mute. We are introducing our participants. We are asking that you state your name, identify your school, hometown, and what year are you currently in school?
Can I go?
Yes, Emerson.
Yes, my name is Emerson Johnson. I attend Greensboro College Middle College, and I'm a junior. I'm from Greensboro, North Carolina as well. And I just hope to gain, a better understanding and to improve the skills that I already have with writing.
Excellent.
Good morning. I'm Kiana Cladd. I attend American Sumter High School. I want to enhance my writing skill. I'm a sophomore. And I live in Americus, Georgia.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there anyone else? We don't want to miss anyone.
See one of the Campbells logging on, but the name is wrong. But you can introduce yourself and let us see you in the camera. You got you put your tablet or laptop a little higher or sit down a little lower. There we go.
Hello, my name is Damian Campbell. I go to Nimitz High School. I'm a senior. I'm in STEM class. I'm learning about how to do applications and learning a lot of technology. And my hometown is Humble, Texas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Thank you. Is that everyone? Ms. Spees, I'm gonna let you go on and do the goals.
Okay.
And then we'll get ready for our first Slido poll.
All right.
So I'm gonna
okay. Well, listening to all of our participants and sharing with us this morning what you intend to gain from our workshop, we can say that you are all in the right place early this Saturday morning. So Dr. Kennedy and I have identified 5 goals for this morning's workshop. Or in other words, what is it that we want you to gain from spending your time with us this morning? Our first goal is that we want to identify current writing processes and emotional responses that you have towards essay writing. Number 2, we want to take time to review the writing process. That's always key. Even once you get into that first college classroom, your English professor will be covering once again the writing process. We also want to help you as students to identify your own writing style or styles. Another goal is to teach you to analyze elements of the essay prompt. Sometimes we simply say follow the directions, but we want to demystify those essay prompts to ensure that you are putting forth the very best response. And finally, we want to allow you time this morning to practice writing a personal statement. And hopefully this will be a statement that you can use for multiple applications, whether or not it's for college admissions or also for scholarship applications. Okay, so these are our 5 goals for this morning.
Ms. Bledsoe, can you check the waiting room? There may be, I know there's at least one student waiting. Thank you. And I want to say that Mrs. Spees and I planned this essay specifically to address the kinds of things that you all shared that you want to learn. So we're glad that we are right on point with what you're looking for. So I always like to start with understanding and knowing what our students are thinking when they think about writing. So I'm going to have you do a Slido poll. So I'm going to go to that, stop sharing this screen and go to that screen because I want you to think of one word to describe how you feel about writing essays. Now, I know Mrs. Spees and I, when somebody said we got to write an essay, we probably like, yes, 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 yes. But I imagine that is not how you're thinking. So I want to know how you're thinking. So I'm going to pull up the Slido poll, and pull up the Slido poll, and so that you can actually go in there and respond to this prompt. So when I'm going to share it in 1 second. As soon as it pops up again, you're going to type in, you can either do a barcode or you can type in to go to slido.com and type in that number after the hashtag. Just type one word to describe how you feel about writing essays. I don't see anything yet. I'm eager to learn.
Does everyone understand how to go into Slido?
So you should be writing one word to describe how you feel about writing essays. Okay, I like that. That makes sense to me. All righty.
Dread it.
I know, I'm like, really? That's not cool. Okay, I like motivated. We're gonna talk about these, and I'll ask everyone, since there's so few people, I'll ask everyone to share a little bit about why you said that. Okay. Some of those words kind of match how I feel about doing math, but so I get it, but yeah, we're gonna work on that. Okay, I like comfortable. Okay, cool. In the middle. Okay, I like that. Okay. I got 8, 1, 2. Oh, okay. That means at least 2 people put stressed. Okay, so I think I have everyone. Okay, so I think we have everyone, and we do have one person who joined the meeting. So before we go into, before I ask you to share, let me ask the person who joined the meeting. I don't see Solomon, but I know you joined. Solomon, would you introduce yourself? And I'm going to go back a screen. I'm going to actually ask you, I'm not going to show the screen, I'm going to tell you. We asked everyone to introduce themselves by saying their name, their year in school, and their hometown, and what they hope to gain out of this workshop.
My name is Solomon Campbell. I'm from Humble, Texas. I go to Nimitz High School. I'm a sophomore. I believe what I wish to gain from this program is probably to learn how to elucidate and, just explain myself on my essays and learn how to get those scholarships.
Ooh.
That's basically it.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. I think do we have somebody else who joined who hasn't had a chance to introduce himself or herself yet?
Yes,
Oh,
I have it.
I heard a yes, but I can't see who it was.
I think
Hi,
it's
it's me. I joined late because I had my senior pictures this morning.
Ooh, awesome. And what's your name?
Layla Simmons. I go to Dutchtown High School. I'm a senior.
Okay. Good job. I hope you did a great job on your pictures. I'm sure you're beautiful.
Thank you.
I don't see you yet. And so where do you hope to gain from the essay, from this workshop?
I guess just a easier understanding of how to do my essays. I'm pretty comfortable and pretty used to doing essays, so it's not really a new process for me. So I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you joined us. We have a nice little group. So now I want to go back and talk about maybe I won't ask everybody to share, but let me get at least 3 people to share what they want to, why they picked their word. Now we can do this 1 of 2 ways. Either Ms. Spees and I can pick the words, or we could just ask you to volunteer. Can I get volunteers? And you can use the raise your hand.
I can go.
Okay. Say your name.
Oh, hi everyone. I'm Zaria Perkins. I'm a junior this year. I live in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I picked the word hesitant because I'm really comfortable with writing, like creative writing and writing stories. But when it comes to essays, I get a little nervous about like what to write about, like how to respond to the prompts and stuff like that.
Awesome. Thank you. That's very interesting that you actually identified those 2 types of writing, because there are 2 types of writing, a minimum of 2, but we need to be approached differently. Absolutely. Thank you. Two more. 2 more. All right, I'll pick one and Miss Spees will pick one. I want to pick winter. And I know I picked a person and not a word, but I'm going to pick winter. You got to unmute yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had myself muted. I picked procrastinate. And the reason why I picked that is because I feel like I'm a perfectionist in a way when it comes to writing. So I plan it like thoroughly in my head. And because until I feel like the idea is perfect in my head, then I won't write the essay. I'll just keep like adding things in my head and then try to write it all in like one swoop. So that's how I feel about writing essays.
You know what? I've got something special to say about that when we get to the writing process and the kind of writer you are, because that's exactly how I am. But
okay,
wait till I tell you what I discovered as a grad student. All right. This is Speed.
So I want to hear from the person who put in the poll that he or she is excited about essay writing. Who wrote the word excited?
Maybe that person can type in the chat.
Can it?
Okay, so that was Mrs. Stanley Key who gave us the word excite. Okay, so chapter members are participating as well, which is great. So we love that, Mrs. Stanley Key, but we want to hear from our students as well. So I'm going on the positive side here of writing. Who gave us the word motivated?
I said motivated because
Tell us your
I'm,
name.
huh?
Tell us who you are. We can't see who's speaking.
Oh, I'm Denver, and I said motivated because, like, usually there's a reason why you're writing it, and an end goal. So I just try to think of that so I can work through it.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop sharing this one and go back to the presentation. So that is good to hear that we have more people excited about writing and eager and motivated. And yes, all of those great things. So I'm going to go back to the presentation. And we're going to, I'm actually going to ask you another thing though, another poll actually. So the next poll I'm going to ask you to do is to give us a picture, like paint a picture of what's your writing process. So if you are given an assignment that you know you have to write something, and we just heard from Winter what her process is. But now I'm going to ask you, the rest of you, to tell us if you have an assignment that's due, let's say you have to write this essay and it's due in 2 weeks. What is the process you follow for getting ready? And so I'm giving you some choices. I actually don't have one up there that says none of the above. But if you have an essay to write that's due in 2 weeks, what do you do? And you can pick multiple ones, but I've given you some choices. I want to see what you respond to. Do you start writing as soon as you receive it? Do you do research? Do you write it the night before it's due? Some of my students used to say they write it that morning, right before class. Do you write it the first week and then revise it? Do you write it and revise it on the same day, or do you write it and turn it in without writing any additional drafts? So I just want to see, this is just from the students though. What do you do? And you can pick multiple ones, actually. Okay. Oh, Lord.
Oh!
That is not true. Okay, we gotta wait till all the answers are in.
Okay.
Because we're getting nervous over here. I think we have at least 11 students. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's a great mix.
Yeah, I need some more though. We don't know who's saying what. We're not going to tell you, teachers. Okay.
There's a lot of research going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to give 30 more seconds.
Emerson
Okay.
is saying she can't find it.
She can't find the poll.
Yes.
Slido.com, and then you got to do that 96662. Who can't find it?
It was Emerson.
Okay, did she was she able to get there yet? I can't see because I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, she was writing in the chat, so let's see if she's got it now.
Open that back up. I closed it. Okay. Emerson, let us know if you found it. I do want to get your response because I'll be saving this.
Okay, she has it.
Okay. I see it now. I got the chat on one monitor. I am glad to see that there are more. First of all, I'm glad to see nobody's at the bottom yet, where it says write the essay the night before it's due, which is even better than write it right before class. But I like that we have research going on, as Mrs. Spees already pointed out. And then I really like the writing and revising, I am always surprised when my students tell me they just wrote something and they didn't revise it. And so that says to me either it wasn't written or nobody responded to it. So it could be we don't have any free writers in here, which is a good thing, because that's the other problem we have with free writing, is that free writing is a style, but students often think that they free write and then that's what they turn in, and that's not how it's supposed to work. So we're going to talk a little bit about the writing process, and I got to get back to my sharing. Get back to the writing process. So how you write says a lot about the kind of writer you are, but it also says a lot about whether or not you're following the process. So based on what you shared with me, I always want to talk about the different writing styles. So I was glad to see there was nobody who said they were a free writer, although that's not a bad thing. But what usually happens is that students who are free writers, they write out their first draft and they turn that in. But that's really not how free writing should work. And free writing is also a good thing if you just really don't know what you think or you don't know what you want to write about. So you can write about it. In psychology classes, they may call this like a brain dump. So you just kind of write out everything, but then you use that draft to organize and develop your next draft and to identify holes where you might have some research you need to do. So then there's the brainstormer who just lists whatever comes to mind on that topic. I think we had a few people who said that. Diagrammer, mapper, draws ideas, and then they develop them. Now, an artistic person will do this, whereas more of a word person will just outline, and they'll just write that outline, and it could be a formal or informal outline. Although I will say over the years, I've seen fewer and fewer formal outlines. And what I mean by that is Roman numeral 1, lowercase a, capital A's. Most students don't do that, but they'll maybe make a list, which is a good thing. And then there's a talker, a person who just talks out loud, brainstorm the ideas, but it's all verbal. It's not written down. And then we have the researcher. This person goes to the library, looks up all sorts of things, or now we know go to the library means go on your computer, reads what others have written on the topic, maybe looks for some exemplars or excellent examples. And then my favorite is me, which is Winter. In Winter, I'm going to say, in fact, I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to say, I used to think I was a procrastinator because I would always think about things, think about the topic, think about the topic, think about the topic. And like you, I'm a perfectionist. I want to do it over. I don't want to do it more than once. So I would not write anything until I was ready. Well, when I was taking a graduate class, one of my professors shared that there's a writing style where people just think about it, think about it, think about it, let it stew. I made up intellectual free writer because it's all in the head, but plans the majority of the paper in the head over time before actually drafting anything. And based on what you said, that is where I am. And that sounds like you. Does that sound like what you do?
Yes, that is like a perfect explanation of what I do.
And that's exactly what I do. And so once I heard that, and like I say, I gave it the name intellectual free writer because I just always thought I was a procrastinator. But the question that I think of is when you think about your writing style, when I think about the writing style, what I always ask my students is, if you have a writing style, and I'm just giving you that list, how has that writing style been working for you? So let me just ask, I'm going to pause here and ask this question, and you can give me a thumbs up, hands up, whatever. And I'm not seeing what happened to my beautiful faces. Just a thumbs up. Does the style you have work for you? Just a thumbs up. Yes, it does. If you give me a little wavy hand, that means sometime you need, okay, thumbs up. I see some thumbs up. I see thumbs up. Yes, yes, yes. So the style you have works for you. I see somebody with the eyes that say, I don't know if I can make a decision yet. Look on his face. Yeah, I see you over there. Yeah, thumbs down. That's honest. Yes. Okay. So let's say if your style you have is not working for you. So you know what we say, if it doesn't work for you, then what? You got to do something different. So what we'll do, I want to go over today. So basically there's a writing process. Now I bet all of you learned this in elementary school, and there's two different ways. So I'm going to look at the Troika and Hess model, which is really more the academic model, but probably what you learned in elementary school was the traditional model. So the first step is plan. You get an assignment, you read the directions, you figure out what you have to do, you start planning. Then you start shaping what you've already planned. And again, this goes back to, are you a free writer, which nobody was in this group, but do you organize, do you outline, are you thinking in your head like Winter and me, or I? And then you start drafting. And then after you draft, that's the part where you go back, revise it, make some additions, change it, not just turn it in to the teacher. And then you finally do the editing step. Now, and then after you edit, then you proofread. So those are actually two different steps. And I know some people try to put those together. Now, what you probably learned in school was more of your planning included the pre-writing and the thinking. And that's what we want you to do. We want you to think, okay, what am I going to do? What parts of these, if I have a choice, what am I going to write? Then you draft, which means writing. Then you revise, which means make it better. And then you proofread and make it correct. And then finally the publishing, and that's when you share it. That's when you give it to your teacher. And I would say when you're in this process in here somewhere before you publish it, or after you publish the first draft, that's a time when you could share it with others for feedback. We don't talk about that enough, and that you get feedback from peers as well as people who are not your peers, because your peers may just say, yeah, that was good. But if you share it with someone who's not your peer, or if you're sharing it in a subject area that's not the same subject area with people who are not in your class, they're going to get a different sense of it. So that's another way to look at that. So again, I asked the question, what do you have and what's working for you? Now, if I were to draw a picture of the writing process, this is what it looks like. It has all these different parts and the arrows go back and forth because it's not linear. It's not like doing an equation where you do step 1, step 2, step 3. So it's back and forth. You can, as it shows here, different ways you can publish. Is you could do sharing with somebody, you could read it out loud, you could give it to a friend to read, those kinds of things. So this is what it looks like. Now, what it looks like time-wise is that you need to spend 35% of your time pre-writing. So if it takes you 2 hours to work on something, then you should divide that time up so that most of that time is in the pre-writing. And then once you've got a good pre-writing, then you only spend about 30% of your time writing. Then the revising is even less. And notice that you have 10% for that proofreading and editing. So it's really important that you divide your time. Now, those people who spend a lot of time like Winter and I procrastinating and doing that intellectual free writing, we spend very little time over here because we really, in the middle of the night, I don't know about Winter, but in the middle of the night, I'm waking up thinking about, oh yeah, I could put this. Oh yeah, I could put that. Oh yeah, I can add that. Mm-hmm. And then when I finally put it together, then I can just let it flow. Sometimes I draw arrows and move stuff around. Back in the day when I had to handwrite everything, I just had lots of arrows and circles and pieces cut out. It was so great when we got the computer and we could do cut and paste. We didn't have that when we were kids. So what does that mean? So based on those different steps and the time that it takes, the question I ask is, what does it look like for each step of the writing process, those different steps? And that's really going to depend on you. So what is your writing style and what does it look like for you? So if you're a brainstormer, then your brainstormer could be just somebody sitting and thinking. Or if you could be somebody making a list, and I'm a list person, so I've been writing down notes today. So I might have a list of all the things that I'm thinking about, and then I'll go back and look at it and cross it out. So you have to know you, and you have to know what works for you. So if you gave me thumbs up, what you're doing already works, that's cool. You can keep that. But if I saw a couple of these, and I saw a couple of side eyes, so that means you need to change what you're doing and do something a little different. And Mrs. Spees is going to give you some guidelines on how to do that. But again, if this is what you're doing and it's already working for you, then keep it. If what you're doing is not working for you, then I implore you to try some different strategies. Okay, so which one could I do? And then let me say this. Your writing style is going to look different depending on the type of essay that you have to do. So if it's something you already know, then there's no reason to do research. But if it's something that's totally new to you, then you need to go do some research. Or if you don't even know where you want to start, that's where free writing or that psychological brain dump could start, where you can actually just, okay, let's see, what do I want to do? What interests me? What captures my attention? And you can use free writing to do that. And again, I say what the steps look like depends on your writing style, but I'm also going to add here, it depends on your writing style, and it depends on your writing style for that specific process. So I'm actually going to stop here just to see if there's any questions so far before we go to the next part? If you have questions, you can give me a thumbs up, or you can actually type a question in the chat. Questions about anything dealing with the writing process so far. And I know we haven't talked about this, but I don't like to keep going without figuring out where you are, doing the temperature check. Any questions in the chat?
So far, there are no questions in the chat.
Damien asked, is it going to be tough? Yes, Damien. Sometimes it will be tough. So yes, everything is not easy, but I think if you break it down step by step and don't look at the whole piece, don't look at the whole pie, take each step at a time, then it'll be easier. And you know what? I haven't said anything in here about resources. Utilize your resources. I bet everybody in this room has a friend, and you may be the friend. I was the friend. You have a friend who's really good at writing. That's a resource that you can go to, and you can pique that person's mind and assistance. Zoe wrote, even if your writing style works for you, are some processes better than others, like writing in increments versus all at one time? Zoe, I would think that even if you're writing in increments, in those increments, you're following your writing style. Now, I will say that I was trying to see I can't read my notes, but I don't know, Zoe, if you were the one talking about different types of writing. But if I'm writing a research paper, that's going to look different than if I'm writing a short story or if I'm writing a narrative. So that may look different. And that's why I say different writing styles for different purposes. But even within the purpose, I'm still going to be a intellectual free writer, because I'm going to be thinking about what I'm going to be writing. And I'm also going to be, here's another thing, writing the questions that I need to get answers for. So that's another part of that planning, is what do I know? Identifying what you know and identifying what you don't know. So if you don't know something, then you can make a note to look that up, to get some research on that. And that's where I think we don't always, as writers, as teachers, we don't always teach our students that they need to, generate. What I like to do when I teach writing is I ask students to generate a list of questions of what question do you think your author is going to need to know the answer to. So as a writer, your goal is to answer your readers' questions before they ask it. Nobody should finish reading something that you wrote and go away with a list of questions. So if you generate a list of questions first, then you answer those questions in your writing. First, you organize the questions and then you organize them. That's a good strategy too. One of my favorite activities I like to do is what I call an in a nutshell question gathering activity. And we could do that. And that could be for another workshop. But yes, that is, it is going to be different in increments. And increments are good. But the best thing I would say, if you're doing increments, it might help to organize the pieces first. But if you don't organize the pieces first, once you have the information, then you could organize it after you have to have the information.
And Dr. Kennedy, if I could interject here, and I think this is a part of Zoe's question as well. Oftentimes when we're writing, there are different types of writing, as Dr. Kennedy has already alluded to, but also it's very important to think about the simplified concepts as well, such as purpose and audience. That will determine, kind of how we as writers will approach a writing assignment. Right. What is my purpose for completing this assignment? And as we know today, our focus is, of course, on those admissions, personal statements, those personal statements that accompany scholarship applications. And so you still have to think about who is my audience, that admissions team who will be receiving your application packet. So somewhere in your mind as a writer, You always have to keep in mind who's receiving this, who again is my audience, but also the purpose. Why am I sharing this writing piece? Will also help you to determine the process that you will work through to get from the beginning part of the writing to the end product.
Yes, and I like that. I think at least 3 or 4 students said something about how do they make what they wrote stand out? How do they respond to what the colleges are looking for? And how do they, I like Solomon said elucidate. So how do they explain what they are looking for? How do they know? But that purpose and audience is key. And so, as you know, with a purpose for an essay you're writing for, hopefully an essay you're writing for your teachers in high school is really not for your teachers in high school, but it's for an audience that would be appropriate for that particular genre that you're writing in. But I always tell my students, it's not for me, it's for the world out there who wants to know about this. So those are some things to consider. All right, thank you. Thank you for participating. I love interactive workshops. So I am going to transition to, we're going to go to the next person. And Mrs. Spees is going to guide you on I don't even know what slide I'm on. I'm going to the next slide. Here we go. Why does it say blank? Oh, my final words to you are to work with, not against your writing style. So always, and I'm just share this one story because when I was working on my dissertation, actually getting ready to do my comprehensive essay, my teacher, we were meeting with the teacher every week or every 2 weeks, and we would share our writing. And he kept telling us to free write. And I was like, I don't free write. I can't free write. So it was like painful for me to free write because I didn't know what the heck, I didn't know what he wanted. I didn't know what he was talking about. And actually what Miss Spees said just now was the key that clicked in my head. So I had to figure out, so as I'm writing this essay, as I'm writing for my dissertation, for my comps, who is my audience and what do I want to say to them? And so once I knew what my audience was and what the purpose was, then I could shape my writing. And then when I came back to the next visit, they were like, well, what happened? And I was like, well, first of all, I prayed to get some guidance, but that's when the light came on that, oh, you're writing for these people. And that's what they want. You want them to know. So once I was able to do that, the rest of my 40, 50 page essay flowed. So yes, but that was very critical. All right, Mrs. Spees, I'm excited because this is like, now what? This is what you all really started with asking. And here's what she's going to help you to do.
All right, good morning once again, everyone. Do we need a stretch break? Do you need like 2 minutes just to kind of get up and move around? Okay, yes, no?
Okay.
Okay, let's just take about 2 minutes or 3 just to kind of breathe a little bit, think about what Dr. Kennedy has shared, and then we'll come back and begin thinking about the prompts. Okay, so just about 2 minutes.
Okay.
And while we are taking our 2 minute break, if you have, again, any questions, I know we have some mentors on with us this morning. We have some parents on with us as well. If you have questions, please feel free to put those in the chat box for us as well. Damien is asking a question in the chat. He asked if the title of the prompt will it be like to break it down so it can be easier? Damien, that is exactly what I'm going to be sharing with you in just a minute here, because that is the key to writing a winning essay, is understanding that prompt. And the way that you understand the prompt indeed is to break it down. So hold tight and we're going to get to that.
Ms. Speaks, can you see the chat?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so let's come back together and begin the second half of our workshop. I noted when we were doing our introductions this morning, I see that we have several high school seniors who are with us this morning. We also have our juniors and sophomores as well. So I know for my seniors who are applying to colleges, probably like right now, you have seen some of these prompts and maybe you've kind of just thrown your hands up thinking, I have no idea what they're asking me to share with them. But this is very important for your college admissions applications. Granted, there are some institutions that will say that the essay is optional. I would suggest to you that if there is the opportunity to share a piece of your writing, choose that as your option, that I am going to do it. And so you may ask, why do you say that? If it's optional, that means either I can do it or I don't have to do it. But the rationale for having an essay, such as a personal statement to accompany and college application, is because you are more than those letters and those numbers that appear on your high school transcripts. Your counselors, your teachers whom you ask to write those recommendations for you, they can say all these glowing things about you. But if we're very honest, these people that we see on a daily basis, again, our teachers, our counselors, sometimes they don't know everything about you. So the opportunity to create a personal statement is such that your admissions teams at our colleges and universities can really garner certain characteristics about you. So this is an opportunity that you do not want to forgo. So there are lots of different prompts. Some of you may actually be using the Common App. And so I've chosen 3 of their 7 prompts that they have put out for the 2020-2021 year. And so for their prompts, they do ask a specific question in most of these prompts. And so you'll see in just a moment why it's important, as Damien asked in the chat during our break, about breaking those prompts down. So first of all, that you as the student will understand what's being asked of you, so that you don't spend time writing a 500-word essay about something that's totally off the topic. So we're talking about prompts. And so I asked the question, what's in a prompt? And an initial answer is potentially there's a lot in that prompt. But the prompt itself is not the most important aspect to consider initially, but rather you are. So what do I mean by that? Consider this idea. What are your most meaningful stories? And what story do you want to tell? And yes, it is all about YOU. I have seen prompts, if I have at the collegiate level, students who want to go and study abroad, and there are these wonderful places that they can go, but they have to get there. So there are lots of great scholarships that can get students to a whole nother country to continue their path to study. But when they look at those prompts, and they can be very detailed, just as some of your undergraduate college admissions personal statement prompts can be as well. But oftentimes, if you were to begin breaking those prompts down, the pronouns that you will see throughout those prompts are you and your. So that suggests to you that this prompt that I have to respond to is about me. Okay. Again, your high school transcript, some of those recommendations cannot begin to share with a college admissions team who you really are. So this is why I say, yes, it is all about you, and that we all have a story to tell. The experiences that we have in life, our stories, are the stories that can really showcase who we are. So that's what I want you to think about as we move forward to look at the first prompt. So as I said, the Common App has 7 topics that they have published for this academic year. So in other words, for high school seniors who are applying for admissions to school, if you're completing the Common App, these are the essay prompts that you will see. So prompt number 1 is entitled The Background Essay. Okay. Background, who are you? Okay, we've seen those essays that begin with, my name is, I am a student at, my hobbies are, I have 5 brothers, 2 sisters, 2 dogs, a cat. Okay, I work at McDonald's. I like to play games. Okay, so sometimes we think that's all the background they need to know. You don't want to do that. It's kind of like Dr. Kennedy and I having been in education, higher ed for over 3 decades. Okay, we know the numbers of essays that we get that begin with, I am going to. Okay, you get to the end of the essay, it is in conclusion. Okay, well, those are the kinds of things that you don't want to do in your college writing classes, but also you don't want to do that when you're responding to a prompt. So the actual prompt reads, some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful, they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. So the operative words here, okay, and this is again coming to Damien's question, how do you break it down? Okay, this is where you get to use your highlighters, underscore words. Look at those specific verbs that are being used in the prompt. Sometimes they might say describe, okay? This one simply says at the end, share your story. But what kind of story are they looking for you to tell? It goes back to the very first line, okay? What's your background? What's your identity? What interests you? And what are your talents? So now it's like the field is wide open. I just have to share a story about one of my talents or one of my interests. That's a beginning point. If we're going back to the writing process, if you're brainstorming, maybe you'll sit and you'll think about what interests you. You can have a jot list. Perhaps you have more than one talent. So you'll make a jot list of what those talents are. And then you have to begin thinking about how can I shape that in a story that is interesting for my audience. And in this case, we're talking about an audience of admissions personnel. Sometimes on college campuses, your essays that you write for these applications go beyond the admissions office. They actually share them with staff and faculty members, so that faculty members can get an idea of perhaps what our incoming class will look like. And so you think about your audience for a scholarship application. Okay, the scholarship committee, what might they be looking for in your story? So a couple of pointers here to think about would be, again, as I said, focus on those key words and use those key words to launch the points for your brainstorm. What about your history, your personality, your hobbies, or your accomplishments might actually be worth actually talking about in a story? Dr. Kennedy, if you can go back to the previous slide for a moment. Okay. It doesn't have to be something grandiose. Sometimes we can take the smallest event that has occurred in our lives and turn it into a story that really shines for us as individuals. The most important thing to consider in this particular prompt is that your subject and or your perspective is dynamic, and most especially is specific to you and who you are and no one else. If you don't understand anything else today about the prompts and about it being all about you, I want you to remember that this is your space to shine. It is to put on paper who you are and make it come to life. The admissions team, again, does not want to read about maybe every opportunity that you've had. Maybe it's about the struggle that you've had and how you've used that struggle to get to the successes that you are currently having in life. The third prompt that we'll look at here in just a moment is one that really allows the college environment to see, well, what kind of problem solver are you? Colleges are looking for students who can meet the challenges of the workforce. So the workforce would say to colleges, we want graduates who are thinkers. We want graduates who are doers. We want your graduates coming into our employ who can work with a team and who can solve problems. So a popular essay for entering college is to get you to think, at the age you are now, what opportunities have I had to really think about a problem? And then the ultimate part of that is, how have I looked to solve that problem? That speaks volumes about who you are as an individual, but it also tells that prospective college, university, hey, this is a student who's coming to us potentially, and she or he has, the ability to think on his or her feet. He or she has the ability to work with a group of people. As I tell my students all the time, in a classroom setting, students kind of cringe when you tell them they have to work in groups. And I say to them, when you get into the world of work, more often than not, you're not going to be working in isolation, okay? So you have to know what it takes to work with a team. And so if one of the prompts is something that you can share your story about how you've worked with a team and how you've accomplished certain things, again, it's telling that college something special about you. And you always have to keep in mind, and I'm sure that you are applying to colleges that are getting thousands upon thousands of applications. So this is where we go back to the idea. Yes, it is all about you, because you want your application to come from the bottom of the stack to the top of the stack. And so oftentimes the way that you can move your application up is simply by how you identify and how you respond to a prompt or prompts. Okay, we can move forward. So again, with the first prompt, we're thinking about a talent, an interest, your background, and sharing a story. So think about these questions as you would begin to brainstorm for completing a response to this prompt. What about my history or my background sets me apart from my peers? Maybe I moved to the United States at an early age, so I'm from another country. Does that set you apart? Okay. What story can you share about what life was like for you when you came into a whole nother country and you didn't have a clear understanding of the language? Okay. How did you work through that to get where you are? There's a story to be told in that. So that is perhaps what sets you apart from others. How do you define yourself? How do the people who are closest to you define you? Okay. And when we think about definitions and defining ourselves, usually it's our backgrounds, our experiences that have helped to shape our definitions of ourselves. Okay, what's the story within that? What have you achieved that has been integral in molding your character and your ambitions? What successes have you had? For example, if you've been that straight 4.0 student throughout your high school matriculation, that does not come easy. So in achieving that 4.0 over the course of 4 years, what's your story? Okay, how did you get there? Okay, maybe what's particular to you is that you achieved a 4.0 while at the same time you were working part-time. Okay, there's a story to be told there. So again, prompt 1 is pretty wide open because it simply asks that you share your story. But in sharing your story, as the first bullet point on this page suggests, think about what will set you apart. What in your 17 or 18 years on this earth has helped shape the person that you are today? Okay. Are there questions about breaking down this first prompt? And again, looking at keywords and understanding what's being asked of you, the writer. Okay, you can put your questions in the chat box or you can come off mute and ask your questions so everyone can hear. Okay, then we'll move then to the second prompt. And I chose different prompts because depending upon the prompt is how you would approach the actual response that you will write. So the first one was that background kind of essay. Prompt 2 is what's referred to as the setback essay. So a setback may be where we've had obstacles or challenges in our lives, and there's a story to be told there. So on the Common App, the prompt that you will see, that you'll be asked to write upon, states, the lessons we take from obstacles that we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you and what did you learn from the experience? So this particular prompt has a little bit more within it than the first prompt, in that it has some specific questions that you're being asked to respond to. And what I say to students all the time, if the question has been asked of you in the prompt, be sure to answer that question. Sometimes the directions will say answer all the questions. Sometimes you won't see that operative word all, but you will see the questions within the prompt. So if the questions are within the prompt, then you are expected to answer all of the questions. So what I've done here again, as I did with the first prompt, I've underscored key terms, lessons from obstacles. So is it any lesson that you're being asked to write about? No, it's a lesson specifically from what? An obstacle or challenge that you've had in your life. And then of course, the extension here is that these are lessons that we've taken from our obstacles or our challenges that we can say have later led to our success. Again, pay attention to verbs. This one says recount a time. So what that actually says is share with us a time. Okay, so we want to hear about the challenge or the setback or the failure. But specifically, the questions become, how did this setback affect you? So your reader, your audience wants to learn, how did it affect you? And then lastly, you want to be sure to include, what did you learn from the experience? Typically, essays about overcoming obstacles are effective when you focus more so on the solutions than the problems. In other words, don't spend, if it's a 500-word essay, don't spend 400 of your words just talking about the problem or the challenge or the obstacle that you had to overcome. But how did it affect you and what did you learn? That would be the solution. So focus in on that. Why is that important? Again, college admissions essays are to garner a little bit more about you, the individual. So we all have obstacles, we all have challenges in life, no matter your age. But also an important factor here is, how do we go about resolving, okay, or finding solutions to our issues, our challenges, our obstacles? And so if you can share that information, it could say to your potential college, if this student comes up against an obstacle while he or she is here at our school, we can pretty much rest assured that he or she has a plan of how to handle challenges and obstacles without always having to call home to mom and dad. But this is a student who can think for himself or herself. And again, that's something that cannot be garnered from looking at a high school transcript, but it is something that an admissions team could see about you in your response to a prompt. Usually these are types of essays that are filled with your response, your outlook, your demeanor when you're presented with one of life's many hurdles. So we want to be sure that we think about and we talk about in this type of essay, how we have a response to what we come up against in life. Aim to showcase your qualities of resilience, determination, and humility. College is not easy, okay? A lot of young people enter college thinking it is going to be easy. But again, you will come up against all kinds of obstacles while you are in college, away from home, away from that comfort zone. So again, your college team wants to know, how do you approach and how do you respond to certain things? Are you resilient? Are you determined to get over those challenges? And so it is within these essays that you are able to show just that. Okay. So a few questions that you can ask about the setback essay as you're brainstorming. Think about how you deal with hardships. What qualifies as a challenge or a setback in your life or your world? Okay. Are you the kind of person who can rebound and turn every experience, either good or bad, into one from which you can learn something? What experiences might illustrate this quality? So in the time that you're thinking about how you're going to respond to certain prompts, again, that pre-writing that Dr. Kennedy shared with you a moment ago, take some time to jot ideas down. Not every challenge that we've had can we say that we practice resilience or determination. So maybe that's not the challenge that you want to select to write about. because especially if you know that the college is looking for certain concepts or qualities or ideas. So make a list and then go back, and thinking about what the prompt is asked of you can help you to determine which of your own life's experiences you're going to share in such a prompt. Okay. And the third prompt that I chose to share with you today is one that's entitled the Solver Essay. I chose this one as one of our examples today because I know, as I said earlier, that colleges are looking for certain qualities in students, because colleges are also trying to make sure that they have graduates who can be gainfully employed. So they are looking at what employers are asking for and saying that they want college graduates to have as far as attributes, characteristics. And perhaps the number one characteristic that employees are currently looking for in new hires would be those who can think critically, and again, those who are problem solvers. So this particular prompt is one that allows you to share from your experiences at your age, at your young age, how you go about solving problems. So the actual prompt says, describe a problem you've solved or a problem that you would like to solve. It can be an intellectual challenge, a research query, an ethical dilemma, anything that is of personal importance, no matter the scale. So in the first part of this prompt, we see a verb that says describe a problem. Is it any problem? No, it's one that you have either solved or one that you would like to solve. So here again, in the brainstorming process, okay, you may list 10 problems, but if 4 of those are problems that you've not solved or you would not like to solve, those are the ones you want to steer away from and look for those where you have a problem that you have solved and one that you would like to solve. The latter part of this prompt says, explain its significance to you. Again, the operative word here is explain. So we're going to describe a problem, and then we need to explain the significance that it has, not to the world, but to whom? To you. Again, going back to this idea that yes, it is all about you. And then also, we want to look at what steps you took or could be taken to identify a solution. So there's a lot going on in the solver essay. You're describing a problem, you're explaining its significance to you. And then also you have to be able to list or to, in a way, you need to think about the steps that were taken or could be taken towards a solution, okay? We are not in the same kind of environment in our colleges that, say, our grandparents were or our parents were, where you take a slate of courses. Today, we know that our college students are coming to us with pronounced goals that you want to have in life. And so a lot of that comes with having to solve problems. Here you get to talk about a problem and how you've solved or are planning to solve it. This is a topic where they're trying to tease out what are your problem solving skills, and can you provide a glimpse into the frame of mind that you have when dealing with challenges. You should think about everything from traditional obstacles to maybe the small predicaments that have inspired you to think about what you really value. Values are important to college admissions teams. So these are the kinds of topics that you can, again, take to your advantage share exactly who you are, besides that you made all A's throughout high school. So a few ideas that I want you to ponder about the solver essay. When have you been proactive in attempting to affect change? Okay. We're living in a world, a society today where you've seen a whole lot, whether or not it's dealing with the racial divide in America, whether or not it's dealing with climate change, whether or not it's dealing with a pandemic. Issues and problems have come up. But what have you done, okay, to be proactive to affect change? Maybe during this pandemic, you've been instrumental perhaps in even helping your teachers maneuver some of the technology. So that could be something you could write about, okay, in a solver essay. What kind of mark would you like to leave on the world? What do you think you can positively contribute to a cause that is important to you? Community service is a large part of our college campuses today. We have young people who are working at the grassroots level, meaning that you're getting out into your communities, not when you're 40 and 50 years of age, but when you're 17 and 18 and you're providing services to people. These are things that are important to you, your values. And so you can show that through how you've taken a situation and you solved an issue. If you had the power to make a lasting impact on any area at all, what would it be? This particular kind of prompt can be approached from what I call the aspirational perspective. You don't have to simply choose from problems you've already solved, but you can think about challenges that the future might bring, both personally and on a global scale. How might you be part of meaningful progress and problem solving moving forward? So what do you aspire to do later in life? So there's an issue here, but you know that it's going to take maybe years to get to a solution. But how can we start moving towards that solution? These are the kinds of essays that are most oftentimes the what we have with the college admissions process, because those admissions teams are looking to learn about whom? You. Okay. So are there questions about the prompts? Are there questions about how to begin to break down the prompts? And I think this is also where, you can depend on your parents and your mentors helping you. Share those prompts with them. Sometimes as students, we just kind of, read the prompt and we start writing. But remember that you have people who are standing in your corner who are willing to help. And so one of the initial things is share those prompts, okay? Share with your mentor, your parents, okay? This is what I think the prompt is asking of me. Can you read the prompt and tell me what you think is asking? And again, underscoring certain words and highlighting those words and looking for specific questions that are being asked within the prompt is the first step to always writing that winning essay. Okay. All right, so are there any questions or comments? All right, so Dr. Kennedy, I think our next area is getting students to think about what makes them uniquely you. All right, we have a question in the chat that says, how long should the essay be? Usually there are directions along with the prompt. And typically they only want like a page, and that could be single space. So that gives you about a 500 to 600 word space. Again, colleges are receiving thousands of applications, and so they can't read 5 and 6 to 10 page essays. So typically, what colleges are looking for would be at least a page, and that's single spaced. I have a pet peeve for wanting everything to be double spaced. But again, if it's double spaced, then 500 words is usually about a page and a half typed.
So now we're going to do a Jamboard. I don't know if you've done a Jamboard before, but I'm going to show you, just give you a little bit. So over here, you have a pen. You can erase something if you make a mistake. You can pick a sticky note, and then if you do pick a sticky note, you can pick whatever color you want. But we want to know, just to get you thinking, what do you think makes you uniquely you? And we're going to share this. We're going to watch as you're on here. And I see I need to edit my sticky note. But we want you to write something that makes you uniquely you. What do you think? What would people say? How would people describe you? And we're just going to pay attention. And if we're asking you to write your name on it, so if our sorority members want to participate, they can put their name on there, so we'll be able to separate them from the students. But I like to tell students to think about, what do people come to you about, or how do they see you in terms of thinking about you, what makes you uniquely you? Because this should show up in your world.
And a part of asking you this question, what makes you uniquely you, is to get you to think about how you want your personal statements to stand out. In other words, what sets you apart from everybody else? What would make people just say, wow?
How do we get to this link?
Dr. Kennedy, did you hear Denver's question?
I'm sorry, I got to put it in the chat. My problem. I'm like, oh no, I didn't put it in the chat. So I'm going to put this in the chat, and that's how you get to the thing. Thank you, Denver. Got my chat hidden over here. There you go. And now I got to give access. So let me do it again. It says edit. Okay.
Emerson, if just give Dr. Kennedy just a moment and she's going to grant access to everyone.
Yeah, I'm going in and doing that now. And it's weird because it says edit, so I don't know why it's asking me, but I'm gonna do it as they're coming through. I'm just clicking on them. I think I can do it faster.
Dr. Kennedy, if they're not able to get into the, to do the jam board, you want them to just begin writing in the chat box?
Yeah, let's begin writing in the chat box. My computer is starting to be slow now. We talked about that. So if you can just write in the chat, if you can't get on the jam board, I'm still trying to get through because I really do want to see them on there.
In the meantime, if we could just have you to write in the chat box, what makes you uniquely you?
I think I got too many things though. I'm going to stop this here. Come on.
Okay, we're beginning to get some responses. Zoe shares with us something unique about me. I have been dancing ballet since I was 3. I also love doing community work and anything that has to do with social justice. Winters responds, what makes me unique is that I had a non-traditional education experience. And Winter, we can, begin to ask questions about your non-traditional education experience, like what made it a non-traditional experience. Could be something you could ponder for responding to a prompt. Denver says, I really like working with kids and spreading God's love. Okay. Emerson responds, I'm unique because I'm bilingual. Damien, says something unique about me is I make clothing. Wow. I think is it Zariah? says she is an animal whisperer and a published author. I started my own blog at the age of 7 and have wanted to be a vet since I was 3. Nari says, something that makes me unique is the love and compassion I have for helping others. I also have been playing basketball since I was 7 years old. Zariah also adds that she was homeschooled and the oldest of 5 kids. Solomon says,
So now the next, go on.
okay, Solomon shares, what makes me uniquely me? Well, personally, I'd say that my awareness and maturity for someone my age and my passion. See, I can already tell that you all have lots of great stories to share about yourselves.
Right. So, Mrs. Speeds, we have about 15 minutes. So, how do we want to handle the next 15 minutes?
Well, one of our ideas was that we wanted the students maybe to start outlining one of the 3 prompts that we shared today. Either we could use our last 15 minutes with them doing a little bit of writing, okay? Or if you want to simply go to the ending part where we wanted maybe to talk about the takeaways from today's workshop.
Let's ask them, and I'm gonna
Stasia shares with us something that makes me unique is that I am starting to create artwork to raise funds for nonprofits. Okay. Stacia, what kind of art do you create?